everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Tech This Week. Hope all of you are keeping well. So today's story might seem subtle at the beginning, but I feel it's a very powerful story, right? The story is about product pricing, right? We all go to markets, right? We buy products. Do you know which is the most dangerous place to be today if you're selling something in the market? Do you think it's the middle? Yeah. Think of it. It's not the cheapest product. It's not the premium flagship. It's a one between, because across industries, the mid-range category, once which used to be the backbone of the middle class consumption, it's kind of thinning out, and almost nobody is treating this as a structural signal. You know, it caught my attention, so I thought of bringing this to you. I'll give you certain examples for to highlight what I'm trying to say here. Look at smartphones. In India, devices under 15,000 rupees continue to drive massive volumes. At the same time, the premium segment, which is say upwards of 80,000 rupees, has seen the fastest growth in terms of value. Right. In fact, Apple's growth in India is overwhelmingly premium led. But the 25,000 to 40,000 band, which once was a very big market, it was the aspirational sweet spot, no longer dominates consumer conversations. So the extremes are clearer, budget or flagship. The middle feels less magnetic, you know. Take one more example, take say for instance, this consumer internet products, free products scale massively. YouTube, Canva, ChatGPT free tiers, open source models. And then on the other end, you can imagine, enterprise platforms deepen their grip as more and more with organizations taking, examples like Salesforce, SAP, MS365, embedding themselves into workflows at scale. But the mid-tier software, which is not free enough to explore virally, you know, but yet not critical enough to justify enterprise budgets, often struggles to defend, pricing power. Cheap scales, mission critical wins. In between gets questioned. Do you concur? Do you think this is making sense? And if it does, let me take it a step ahead. Why do you think this is happening? I have my few reasons. One, it's how digital platforms reward extremes. Think of it, when you go to any online market place, they rank everything: lowest price, bestseller, top rated, premium pick. Cheap converts fast, premium converts emotionally. There's an aspiration associated. Mid range actually invites comparison, and comparison slows decision making. Algorithms that are made, they are optimized for speed and clarity. Extremes are very clear. Either you go for budget friendly or you go for aspirated products, right? The middle seems ambiguous. It's neither here nor there. So in a speed economy, ambiguity loses. Second, very importantly, we live in the world of finances and EMIs, right? And because of EMIs or financing, payments, stretching expensive payments have become normalized. I'll give you an example. See, earlier you imagine buying a product for 30,000 rupees and buying, say, a product of 80,000 rupees. It felt like a serious jump. Now, for the same math, oh, it's 3,000 rupees versus 7,000 rupees. Big enough, but is it that big that I can't buy it? So the gap feels manageable. Consumers no longer ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "Why not stretch?" So financing didn't just make products affordable; it normalized upgrading. Think of it. When stretching upward feels rational, feels normal, the middle loses its psychological anchor or edge that it always had. Third, what you buy speaks a lot about yourself. By the way, doesn't mean if you buy products which are cheap, means that you don't have the money. On the contrary, Cheap signals efficiency, premium signals success, mid-range signals moderation, and moderation doesn't travel well in an attention economy. Getting it? So extremes generate identity. You're either efficient or you're successful. The middle generates compromise, and compromise doesn't trend at all. But is it true for all products? No. You know, the middle doesn't disappear everywhere. There are certain essential categories where reliability still matters more than signaling. You know, say take utilities for example, basic services, a lot of B2B infrastructure. They offer balanced offerings, and they'll survive. But even there, we've seen platforms pushing for price compression at one end, and premium differentiation at the other. So the pressure is directional. What does all of this mean for builders for the future? People, companies, organizations who are building products and services for the future consumptions. So if you're building today, the risk is position, like I said, may not be low end. It may not be premium. It may be the so-called quote unquote good enough. Mid-tier pricing, mid-tier positioning, mid-tier ambition. Earlier, this was the sweet spot everybody wanted to gun for. Remember? Everybody felt this is where the entire market lies. But in a polarized market, good enough, strangely, struggles to command urgency. The question is no longer how do we optimize for the middle. The real question is actually, are we building for protection or aspiration? Because those are the forces which are expanding. I'll just conclude in one way. The middle once defined the global consumer economy, not just India, everywhere. It represented gradual upgrading, steady confidence, and believing in this concept of incremental progress, one step after the other. And if that is eroding, that's just not category compression. Please understand. It is shift in psychology. It's how people perceive products, perceive value, perceive pricing. In volatile decades, the middle is not automatically safe. It is actually exposed. And the companies that survive this era won't ask, how do we fix mid-range pricing? They'll ask, where is the confidence rising and where is it collapsing? Because that's where the next demand will polarize. That's the real story. Think of it. I found it very interesting. Hope you found it too. Have a great week ahead.